Outreach Committee of the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District meeting for today, Monday, November 23rd. Are there any comments from the public that anyone would like to make on anything that is not within today's agenda?
I do see it. Chair Adams.
Okay. So I'm not seeing any identification for the person who's like to raise, whose hand is raised. But
Melody Chris.
Okay.
Excuse me. I see Melody Chris comment to make.
Okay, thank you. So let's go ahead, and if you're not speaking, if you could please mute yourself, I would appreciate it very much. So there's much less background noise going on here. Okay, so let's open it up to Melody Crislaw, and I think we probably are doing 3 minutes.
Okay. Hi, everybody. So I've been talking to a lot of new city council members after the election, and I brought up the idea with them of your general manager has a great PowerPoint that he was going to do at the Coastal Commission and it never got done, that really explains our whole water supply situation a lot more. A lot of them are pretty enthusiastic about having Dave Stolt come and do that for their city council. I think it would be a great idea because then you'll get all of the electeds on one page and they can ask their questions. I've been talking to them basically to find out what they don't know and what they're confused about as far as the whole water supply situation, the buyout, everything. And they're really curious. They're eager to understand what's really going on. So that would be my recommendation, is to follow up with all the city councils and do that. I know there's a number of them that would sponsor it because they want to hear from the Water Management District. And the other thing I was going to say is you might want to consider, now that the member of your board that hosts Zoom is gone, you might want to consider using Zoom. This is a pretty funky format. It's hard to use. It seems to have a lot of audio problems. Right now, I can hear a lot of weird stuff going on. I don't even know if you can hear me without all of that. I hope so. Somebody raise their hand if you could hear me. Okay, thanks. All right, that's pretty much all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Melody. Thank you for your suggestion as well. We'll see if we can look into something like that. Good. Are there any other members of the public that would like to make comment on anything not on today's agenda?
I see no other raised hands.
Thank you, Arlene. Thank you very much. With that, then let's continue on, and we will get into the meat of the meeting today. We have 2 action items that we would like to work on. The first is to consider adoption of the October 15th, 2020 committee meeting minutes. Have committee members had the opportunity to review the minutes?
Move approval.
Move approval. Excellent.
A second.
We have approval, and first from Alvin and second from George. So all in favor, please signify by saying aye. To ask the public. I forgot about the public out there. Is there any member of the public that would like to weigh in on the minutes from the October 15th meeting?
I see no raised hands, Chair Adams, and this will need to be a roll call vote.
Thank you very much.
Because it's virtual.
Great. So we have a motion, we had public input, and we have a second. So could you please take a roll call vote?
Yes, thank you. Director Edwards?
Approval.
Director Riley?
Aye.
And Director Adams?
Aye. Thank you. So that passes 3-0.
Okay, I'm sorry. I will get that timer turned off. Excuse me.
Great,
So it was unanimous approval of the minutes.
thank you. So our second item now is to discuss the branding ad topics for calendar year 2021. And we'll need to make approval of this after we have some discussion about it. I think everyone received the list of topics. So will there be a presentation from staff on this item?
Yeah, I think Stephanie can screen share. I just want to introduce this on kind of a high level. So we've got representatives of TMD who will talk a little bit about activities to date, but we're kind of ramping back into normal outreach mode. What this is not is, there's going to be an effort to do the strategic planning session in January, which will then lead to kind of thematic directions the board wants to go for calendar year 2021. So TMD will be developing, kind of broader scale messaging for the next calendar year. What this is, and also this is separate, you can see the 3 bullets on the bottom. This is also separate from the normal conservation workshops, some of which we do on our own, others we do jointly with California American. This is more setting the tone and the schedule for the branding ads that we do primarily in the Pine Cone and the Weekly, so that we can kind of lock in that we're all in general agreement on themes, and there's alternatives based on what the weather's like and what we may or may not have done in a previous month. But I just wanted to walk you through these themes so that we can, in general, kind of approve them. And we're always trying to strike a balance between water supply projects, conservation activities, and then who we are as a district. So, the calendar starts in January, but the options for January branding kind of depend on what happens in December. So if you think about it, if we start with a pretty good rainy season and we begin diversions to ASR in December, then that would be a water supply message that we'd like to run. And so December would be ASR injection. If we're not yet injecting, then we'll try to come up with some other holiday message. So then you get to January. If we already did ASR, then ASR would be not the primary topic in January, but rather if there's a breach of the lagoon and the steelhead are heading back out to sea. You may recall last year we did a steelhead superhighway ad, again, talking about environmental stewardship. February, today when we talked about this, we realized that we've had a missed opportunity for about 8 years since I got here. So whenever the AT&T and Car Week come in, we usually run something related to the influx of tourists. What we should have been doing for the AT&T every year is touting the reclamation project and our participation in that, and how we used reclaimed water on all 7 golf courses inside Del Monte Forest. And just, again, draw attention to recycled water as a water resource. So that will be the topic. The tournament will be played this year without spectators, but, we'll take that as the opportunity to start with this theme. March, as you know, is there's Fix a Leak Week. The focus would be on conservation as you start heading into irrigation season, and a reminder about rebates. April, we want to highlight Pure Water Monterey with an update on injections and the additional deep well capacity and how everything's working really, really well at that point. Come May, you may recall May 1, if it's looking like a normal year, we make a determination that no rationing will be required. If it's not looking good, then we announce needs for potential drought or weather-related actions. But it's also towards the end of the ASR season, so another opportunity to pat ourselves on the back if we had a good injection season. So it's kind of a either-or situation. For June, Summer forecast just responds or refers generally to if it's looking like a dry summer, then it'll focus on conservation. If it's looking like a normal summer, then we would probably switch to fish rescues because that's always a human interest, environmental stewardship story. July, as summer's continuing, you may recall that July and August are usually the peak months. So we would focus on water waste. Typically in June is when the GFOA awards the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report recognitions. So we thought if we have the opportunity instead of water waste, we would tout the district transparency. And this would obviously be in conjunction with just showing the district's leadership locally and so forth. So we'd have the GFOA certification. We would mention our California Special Districts Association recognition for transparency and those kind of things. Just, the district is your friendly neighborhood, accessible water entity. August, it's always a conservation. Welcome to our beautiful peninsula for Car Week. Don't take a shower type thing. September, if our messaging has been primarily conservation or water waste, then we'd want to convert back to something about water supply. And the alternative there is to go show the river vegetation management and show people, actual crews, just like you're going to see a little bit on our fish releases, or that you saw at the board meeting, and we'll talk a little bit more about some of those things. Same thing on vegetation management. When you see crews out in a riverbed with chainsaws and so forth, it's kind of interesting because people don't think about those things as work efforts that we do. Then October would be back to trying to do, if we didn't do water supply in September, we would try to come up with something in October. Because it's the end of the budget cycle for the rebate program, which is on a calendar year basis, another push to get people to apply for rebates or fish releases. So those are kind of the three topic areas depending on what we're up to. November is the turn off your irrigation systems, fairly typically. And then back to December, which I opened this discussion with. We haven't leveraged radio like we had planned 2 or 3 years ago. Radio is usually best for notices of actions that the listeners can take or reminders. And so if we do the March print, then we could do something on radio all about fix-a-leak, conservation, or rebates. Same thing if we're calling on voluntary actions by the public in the summer, then we run some radio spots on that. And then November is another opportunity to remind people to turn off irrigation. And the radio spots are mostly just designed to, remember, these are all just kind of recognition, not intended to be detailed messaging or information other than just a short reminder to come visit us for rebates, or that we are out there building water supply, or that we're doing something on behalf of the public related to water. So this is the proposal. We're wide open for any better ideas.
Thank you for your presentation, Dave. We see George.
Hi, yeah, this, it's hard to make it exciting. But I think it can be more exciting than, I'm not saying your presentation is part of this. I'm just trying to think of what does the public get from the information that we give them. And I'm wondering if there's a way, because, every month, Dave, you give us some update on water supply or the volume of water in the river, or rainfall, or prognosis on how this year compares to the last 5 years or something or other. And I wonder if there's a way to kind of highlight a little more in these ads. These are print ads mostly. Just a little banner, a little at the bottom to say the latest, or some kind of thing that might be an alert that might get more people to begin to look at the ads, because you never know what else might be in there. And it's just a little of an update, or a little, just a little point that might be made about what the district does or what the district is doing, or look forward to next month's message, or anything at all like that to kind of get them interested as a current events curiosity, not just, or information, not just announcements.
I think you're muted, Dave. Thank you.
I think when Sam and Nick take over here, and Stephanie has some links to, or they have the links to show you, we are moving in a direction where if we utilize our, it's either our MailChimp list or the list we use to tell everybody, here's your agenda packet, more effectively, then we can send people to links to our YouTube website for some really interesting videos and things like that. I think that's the mechanism is, fairly regular, through our Facebook page and through Twitter and so forth, as well as just the standard distribution list is, the newsletter now available, or new video posted on fish rescues, or important message from the district related to this. We don't want to pepper our public so that they quit opening them, but we need to start driving their attention to some of these places where there really is more interesting content, which you're going to get to see in just a second in kind of a draft form. But I agree with you. We need to give people a place to go to get more information that's timely.
Thank you. Alvin, any?
No comments at this
Yeah.
time.
It echoes so it's come out of we for just as a call to action.
There, thought I'd better let you know that. We got the gist of it though, so I think appreciate that comment very much. Any other comments from other members of the board on this? One thing I was thinking, and it has absolutely nothing to do with what Nick was just mentioning, or you, George, or Dave, but I feel since we have some new board members, it might be interesting if we at some point did like a board member profile featuring some of the new members, so people got an idea of the caliber of folks that we've had, who we have on our board. I think that might be of interest to people and could be.
Yeah, it would. And I know Arlene's perking up right now because there's kind of long-standing issues between how we use our media and what we can do on behalf of an independent elected board member. So for example, we can't use our newsletters to do a board profile of a single board member because that could be viewed as campaign related. And so, we do have the postings on our website of the board biographies and so forth. But Dave Laredo or Arlene, I know you've both done some research on this. That
the Fair Political Practices Act is very, very specific as to what can and cannot be done by the U.S. mail. We have more ability on our website to do that. We have some availability in terms of print media, unless they are distributing more than 200 copies by the U.S. mail, in which case then we cannot do that. So all I ask is that if you have a media piece planned that's going to profile an individual who's an elected official or an appointed official, please run that past Arlene in my office so we can take a look at that.
Okay, thank you for that, Dave. Another comment that I wanted to ask of Nick, actually, regarding radio. And I'm just wondering if we have any kind of breakdown on radio usage. To me, radio is generally like I'm driving to work or, going out to do something. And I'm just wondering, in the whole shelter-in-place shutdown that we are in, whether there's been any kind of a study done to show if radio advertising is as effective as it has been in the past.
good audience. So to reach a 35 plus 10 still active. You graph so and Facebook people that go young folks attend so appropriate I will look remain the top limited and we do pieces so
On mute, Chair.
Alan?
I was telling you were on mute. We couldn't hear you while you were talking. How many radio stations do we use?
In the past, what we've done is probably just use the one big media. There's like one that has 3 or 4 different stations. But we haven't done a lot of radio advertising in the last several years other than promoting workshops and trainings that we're doing at the district.
Okay, and when did we go out to all the papers again to find out how much our cost's going to be? Like the Herald and Pinecone and the Weekly.
Those costs are pretty much set, I think, at this point. So it just depends on what size ad we're running and depends on the frequency.
Okay, thank you.
Stephanie, you didn't see much difference between last year and this year in cost, did you?
No, not really.
And they're not quoting you any increase in their rates for next year, are they?
That's a good point. I haven't asked whether or not there's an increase or not, but given that we now have TMD in, I'm not sure how that, we need to work with them on how the costs are going to be run.
Yep.
yeah so just FYI I'm not costs in the yet hey I think very probably what you've had in the past.
Thank you. Any other comments from any board members? Okay, good discussion. Let's take it out to the public and see if any member of the public would like to comment on this item.
I see no raised hands, Chair Adams.
Okay, thank you very much, Arlene. So with that, I think what we need to do is approve the monthly branding.
George has a question.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there, George. Yes. Where are you? George.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to mention something that's a little bit of a pet point of view of mine, which is the public impression of our webinar style. As long as there's, even the consultant was kind of breaking up a lot. I don't know why that was. And it seems to me we have a lot of problems with that issue, as well as people logging on time and being able to start the meetings on time, and then having problems with people who want to speak, and then there's a delay. And I'm not saying that everything can be eliminated, but I think we have a little bit of an image problem that we keep perpetuating by tolerating this little reduced quality, I think, that we have. And I've seen better qualities in other situations. And it just bothers me that we can't find a better way of putting a pretty solid PR image of the district forward when we have our public meetings. And I don't know, Dave, where that stands and how it is, and I'm not trying to suggest anything yet. But you know how I feel about it, so.
Yeah, no, and we immediately started having that conversation. I can tell you, some of you may do the same, but we've been on Microsoft Teams. I've never had a sound problem. Almost every Zoom meeting has gone really well. Stephanie, you use Google Meet with the cities. You haven't had any problems there, right?
No, not at all.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's, so I talked to Suresh about it, and he's like, it's not the software, it's where people are located, how good their line capacity is, whether they're on copper or fiber. But that being said, so many agencies have gone to Zoom, and we participate in Zoom meetings, and they have been relatively error-free. So I do think, the overall look and feel of our public meetings is part of our public image. And so I agree that we need to look at something, but we got to, it's tough to sort through when you get IT people saying it's not the software, it's the connectivity, and that kind of thing.
So I'll comment back on that as well, because I do a zillion meetings like this every week. And this is the only place where we have continual issues. It's not on the agenda today, so obviously we can't make any kind of determination. But my hope is that when we start the new year in January with our new board members, that we change the platform that we use. And my strong recommendation is that we just simply go to Zoom, which is easy to understand and people know how to do it. And in the work that I've been in, there's never been an issue. I've never been Zoom bombed by, people. And my hope is that I think I agree with George 1,000% that our image is the meetings that we have. And right now, it is not good. I mean, if we can't even run a meeting well, how can we run a water district? And I just feel that we need to definitely up the game here. And perhaps even TMD may be helpful to us to even have like the same shared background that we all would have together. That is the Miami Peninsula Water Management District's background, so that we are a very professional looking board when we come to our meetings. And those things are easy to do and very, very, very inexpensive. So we always ask for new agenda item ideas. So I think this is definitely a new agenda item idea. I don't know if we're going to have the opportunity to meet in December before we start the year in January, but I really strongly urge that we look at changing to Zoom, and that we have a standard background so that we look like what we are, a professional group of people.
Yeah, on the standard background thing, we have learned that it depends also on the platform in which you participate. So iPads can only do so much. They can blur background, but they can't. So I took some really nice photos because I wanted to do the same thing, sit in front of the logo. And I've been unable to get backgrounds loaded up through my iPad. Others have different issues. The only piece I want to go back to is Suresh's pushback a little bit was that WebEx does have additional security built in, and his point was, of all the public agencies, if you were going to get Zoom bombed, which agency would somebody want to Zoom bomb the most? And I said, well, that's kind of funny because, yeah, we'd be on the top of the list. So as we talk about security, I think that's an important issue. Who's a target? And I'd say the water district is potentially one of the higher value targets among the public agencies.
I understand what you're saying, but I must say, I think the Board of Supervisors would be equally a ready target.
No, you'd be more.
There we go.
You do have a hand raised on the public.
Thank you.
It's John Tilley.
Okay. John Tilley, do you want to, can we unmute him so you can make your comments, John?
As you move to a new platform, I would suggest that you look at how you expose the public and don't expose the public. It's interesting, that we're not able to see who the attendees are. And I think it's a question that should be asked is it required that you show who the attendees are? Or if you have a choice, do you want to show who the attendees are? It's important, and it's working from a dark background of who's in these meetings and who's not. Thank you very much.
Can we stop on that for a second? So, John, what you're saying then is if you go down to your control buttons and you go to the one that looks like a human, do you see a list of participants and then down at the bottom a little bar that says attendees view all? You don't have that feature as an attendee?
No, I don't. It only shows the panelists. It does not show who the attendees are.
Huh.
Oh, I see. Yeah, it says attendees 3, 1 is displayed,
Right.
and it's John. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you can tap on,
No, tap on
View all.
view all attendees and I show every one of them.
yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. You can see all three, but
Perhaps as a panelist, but in the public forum, I'm not seeing that capability. Arlene?
Yeah, the panelists can see the list of it.
okay.
But the other attendees are unable to do so. Got it.
May I suggest that that might be a factor to differentiate amongst different platforms? I don't know if different platforms allow the public to see the attendees or not.
And if you want to bring me as a panelist, I would welcome that, but thank you.
You know, I hear what you just said, Dave, and I understand that. And I also wonder that we would not have some control over what it is that we would want as the ones who are hosting the meeting. We would not have the opportunity to decide that we want to list all of the attendees. I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I would think we would want to.
Adams?
If you show up to a public meeting, you get to look around and see who's there and, give a nod and a wave and so forth, so.
I
Sure,
wouldn't want to have
Adams.
everybody chatting. Yes, Arlene, I'm sorry.
There is control. We do have control over that.
So we would be able to list all of the attendees so that the attendees as well as the participants would be able to
Yes.
see in the room. Yeah, that might be
Yes.
something that we should look at changing again as we start the new year in January. And it's something I would certainly suggest. Oh, we've got so many exciting things to do with our new changes here. Okay. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment? John, I see your hand still up. Is that from before? Mr. Tilley?
Thank you very much. All good.
Okay, thank you. Any other member of the public that would like to comment on this now? Okay, so with that, we are listed as an action item, which I believe and says that we are approving. So I think we will need to have a roll call vote on approving this item. If there's anyone interested in making motions to approve the
I move.
I'll second.
Okay. Arlene, could you please do a roll call vote for us?
Approval.
Director Riley
Aye.
and Director Adams.
Aye.
Unanimous approval.
And keep in mind, that doesn't mean we will do radio. We were just approving the general scope of the subject areas.
The subject areas. Thank you. Thank you for that reminder. Great. Okay, and now we will go into discussion items, and of course, we will include the public in this. And the first is to review recent activities by the public outreach consultant.
And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to TMD. They actually hit the ground running this month. We've been able to do field work, and I think they've had some interesting experiences. And if I can help with any of the presentation, I hope Nick or Sam, you can let me know what I need to do for you.
Excuse me, be yielding the screen to Nicholas or to Sam?
Sam.
Thank you.
Sam Spade.
Okay, a moment.
All right, let me know.
And Sam, I did see your email this afternoon. So you're going to touch on all those topic areas, right?
Correct.
Great.
Okay, Sam, you have control of the screen now.
Excellent. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Great. So one of the things, I'm kind of going to go over 4 things that we started on this month. The first thing that we did is we started working with the steelhead release out in Carmel Valley. We made a little bit of a video with our first day shoot. We got the other shoot last week, and we'll be incorporating that into the video here. This is a video we'll use on social media. We'll probably add it to the website, and then also maybe use it in a newsletter, and I'll get to what we're going to do in the newsletter. But we'll be adding some voiceover to this as well, but just to kind of give you a little bit of a peek. If it's kind of lagging a little bit, let me know and I can just stop and kind of describe it. But it just kind of gives an overview of the facility out there in Carmel Valley. This is the first day we're there. They're doing a catch and tag for some of the smaller fish that they've been caring for over the last few months. And then they'll be placing them in the river. And then the second shoot, which we'll be incorporating next week, are for the larger fish that they took a little bit further down the river, as they'll be making their way out to the ocean later this year. So this is kind of just give like a little bit of an interactive look and a little bit of education, kind of what George was talking about before, just getting people, do something that grabs their attention a little bit more. And these are the kind of things that we'll be utilizing moving forward. We also got some nice photography while we were out there as well. We used some of that photography in one of the ads that we just created for the Carmel Pine Cone. We'll show you that ad in just a moment. And yeah, that's Beverly out there with the Water District was a huge help. There she is right there. She kind of walked us through the process, gave us some really cool insight, and we'll be using some of those photos and some of that information for the social media outreach campaign that we'll be starting in a few weeks as well. Just kind of let the public know. I think it's, something that I didn't really know that the Water District did, that I found kind of really cool. And it's a, kind of a feel-good story. You're kind of bringing back, local fish to the Carmel River and out into the ocean there as well. So that kind of gives you a little bit of, oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. When we clicked through it today directly from your email, it flowed beautifully like video. So what some of us may be seeing here where it's a little choppy is probably just a result of the presentation format.
Yeah.
But yeah, once it gets edited together, this is what I was referring to earlier, where if we've got a very good email distribution list, we've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, we've got all our social media, it's very easy to just pop that message out there that, district releases 5,000 steelhead back to the wild, and, click here for video, that kind of thing. And that's, to Director Riley's point, that kind of platform can also be used for drier information as well, as in addition to the cooler information. But that's what we got to get better at is, the print ads are, many people just go straight past the page, but if they just catch an imprint of our logo or something about water and our logo, they go, oh yeah, the Water District, you plant a seed. But if you really want to get them to experience what we do or what we're trying to talk about, we need them to come visit and stay for a little while.
Thank you very much for bringing that up, Dave, because I was a little worried that it was going to come through choppy. I mean, it was playing fine on my screen, but we can send that out to or maybe Stephanie or Arlene can add a link to the minutes, so everybody can kind of view where that video is at on their own screens and monitors, and it should play beautifully, as Dave noted. One of the other things I wanted to mention that we've been working on and that we sent in actually today for the next issue of the Pine Cone is a new ad. We're using that Water Matters tagline. And one of the things that we're trying to do is to encourage some type of call to action. George, also, as you mentioned before, we do have a QR code on there for newsletter signups. And most newer phones, whether they're Android or iPhone, if you put the camera, you turn on the camera on your phone and you place it over the QR code, it'll take you to the website or whatever link that you have embedded in the QR code. So what we're going to do right now is have it go to the newsletter sign up page on the website and hope that we can build up our newsletter sign up list. Now, this won't be the only way that we're going to build up the newsletter sign up list, but this is going to be one of the ways that we'll be building it up with the hope that we can use the newsletter as a driver to our content along with social media and the website. So they kind of create this information loop where they'll all be connected to each other, but even if somebody only has kind of access to one of those channels, they'll still be kept in the loop on what the district is doing. Obviously, we're going to have some other messaging in there as well, but I wanted to particularly point out this QR code and kind of the thought behind it. Are there any questions on any of this so far? Or should I just keep going?
Let's see if we have any members of the board who have any questions on this element.
Is this just for the pine cone? How about the weekly?
Yeah, both.
Okay.
And this concept of the QR codes, so for some of you who are less social media oriented, in times of COVID, I don't know if you've noticed this, but many restaurants, rather than have disposable menus, are now doing this where you just hover your camera over the menu or over the code, and then up pops the menu. Home sales. Remember, they used to stuff 30 single sheets in front of a house where you could pull the sheet out and see what all the specifics are. Those kind of things where you have to touch a dispensary of information have gone by the side, and now you'll just see a single side with the code on it, and you hover your camera over it. So some of the old dogs will be learning new tricks because this is becoming pretty prevalent, not just for things we might think are important, but really for commerce in general. So it's a little lesson learned from the COVID situation.
Hey, Dave, one more question. There's a little paper out there in Pacific Grove. Have we talked to them about putting our ads in and stuff?
Yeah, the Cedar Street Times.
Yes.
Yeah, and occasionally Seaside gets together their, that little flyer.
The Sentinel every now and then.
Yeah.
But I think the Pacific Grove gets out there more often than the Seaside gets out there.
Yeah, we'll have a sidebar conversation with TMD about the efficacy of that. We have, out of a courtesy to Marjan, on occasion bought some ad space. We've helped her write articles, but we don't treat them the same as the Pine Cone and the Weekly. Yeah.
Well, I think we need to look at that because that's a good paper, and they're out there, look like Weekly or whatever, like the Coast Weekly and the Pine Cone. So I really think we ought to look into that. All right.
Yep.
Thank you for your comments. Any other member of the board have additional comments?
I would, Chair.
Yep. Mr.
Yeah, I support Alvin's remarks on the others. I'm just looking at this image and I'm quite pleased with what looks like, real photographs. I like the way it flows with the water matters and so on, plus a little message down below. Is this the format that you're looking at with original photographs as opposed to images? And then kind of repeating this as the format so that there are different, okay, I see you nodding your head. Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to hear.
Great.
Yeah, that's the idea. Sure, George.
Good. So I know we've not completed your presentation yet, so I think I'll wait until the end of the presentation to take it out to the public. So you want to continue, Sam?
Yeah, please. And just to key on a couple things that Dave and actually George just said as well. It used to be on these QR codes that you needed a separate app to read them. but on most phones created in the last couple of years, like Dave said, if you just hover your camera over it, like you're going to take a picture of it, it'll read it, and then a button will pop up asking if you want to open it. So that's how those work, if you haven't used one before. And then George, yeah, that's the idea. We got several, real nice photographs. We have a great photographer on. Ooh, excuse me, chair just fell down, or lowered a little bit. We have a great photographer on staff. So yeah, we got a ton of beautiful photos in addition to this one, and we'll be looking to get, new photographs every couple of months so we can really keep those designs fresh. I also wanted to note on the, the messaging. So obviously we have some kind of general messaging right now. And then as you noted earlier, you'll be having your kind of strategic planning meeting. And then we'll incorporate, whatever updated messaging is or themes are developed out of that into the advertising moving forward after you've kind of solidified those. So that is one thing I wanted to note. And then, not just in the ads, but we'll also incorporate that into the social media, the website, and, any videos or anything else we do moving forward. So that's really going to kind of guide the theme and the messaging moving forward. But for now, we're just kind of focused on these general, conservation and what the district is doing type of messaging for now. The last thing I wanted to note is the social media calendar. So we should have a calendar for the last few weeks of December over to the district later this week. And then over the next week, we'll go back and forth on that. And our hope to be posting right around the week, I believe, of the 7th of December. And then from then on, once we have that kind of calendar established, we'll start to present that a couple weeks before the end of the month to the district, and then get that, approval by the last week of the month. So we're ready to schedule and post moving forward. We'll be checking in on it, especially initially, several times a week. We may, depending upon the traction that we get, want to look into putting a little bit of paid advertising into it to grow our audience. But that's something that we probably won't have a good idea on until early January, after we've given it a few weeks and kind of see how it's going. So that's our plan for right now. And then one of the other things I wanted to note regarding the website, we'll start to incorporate some of these nicer, photographs and images that we've taken into the website just to kind of give it a fresher look, even before we, look at altering any of the content or anything on there. That's kind of what we've been working on right now, and what we'll be working on throughout the next month.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you. This is just absolutely beautiful. This is just a suggestion. I just wonder if underneath the photo, if you would put just an example of where this is. I think people might find that of interest.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that idea.
Great. Good. Any other members of the board have any questions or comments before I go out to the public?
I have one quick comment for you.
Okay.
And that is that their photographer was actually out in the middle of the river wearing waders, taking photos. And there was a great post on their Facebook page, and I think I carried it over and shared it on the district's Facebook page. So if you have a chance to look at our Facebook page, it's a good picture.
Great. Thank you for that, Stephanie. That's excellent. Good. So I'm not seeing any members of the board with additional, or the subcommittee rather, or committee, wherever the heck we call ourselves. I don't see anyone. So let's take it out to the public to see if any member of the public would like to make any comments on the presentation that we've had from TMD today. Seeing nothing from anyone. No questions? Okay. Thank you. So with that,
Chair Adams, excuse me, Chair Adams, I see no raised hands. My mic was.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Arlene. With that, then we will bring it back to the board and look forward to future discussion about this. It's a discussion item, so we do not need to have a motion on that for today. But I think just to speak for I expect all of the committee members, I'm very impressed with the work that we're seeing. I think it really is a lot of exciting work that we have ahead of us. And I'm so looking forward to 2021 and hoping that everything is going to look different in January. That's my motto. It'll all be different in January, including the look of our subcommittee here, our public outreach committee, I should say. The last item that we have on our agenda today is to suggest items to be placed for future agendas. And, Arlene, could you remind me when our next, or maybe Stephanie, when our next meeting is going to be for this committee?
You're on mute.
The next meeting will be December 28th.
December 28th, okay. And so I am hopeful that we will have a quorum for that meeting, among the three of us, because I think at that time, we really do want to have an opportunity to move forward with some of the discussion items that we had today, as far as changing or suggesting a change. I know it's not really a board's decision on what platform we have for our meetings, but my hope and expectation is that our voices will be heard today. Do any members of this committee have items that they'd like to see on the agenda? Meeting December 28th.
George had his hand up. I'll go after George.
All righty. Mr. Riley.
Yes, thank you. I was just curious about the original messaging calendar for the year. The footnote at the bottom made the reference to Measure J events and progress. My question, Dave, is probably to you about how do and Melody Crislock's comment earlier as public comment about an outreach PowerPoint presentation and so on. It seems to me this is all kind of wrapped together in the same kind of message component. And I'm just wondering, do you see how do you see this committee relating to the Measure J, as well as the whole board, as well as your PowerPoint outreach?
Right. So this committee will need to define how they want to bring progress on Measure J out to the public. We've talked about doing some town halls. We could do some, especially if we change platforms to something that's easier for the general public to access. But yeah, we're going to have to make decisions on that. We've been in a little bit of a holding pattern because we need to get our LAFCO application in. Darren McBain at LAFCO said, time-wise, it's probably the first or second week of December. It's probably going to be the second week of December. He's given me some good suggestions. It may actually be the third week of December, but they won't be able to respond until January. But once he has the application, he'll give us a sense of what the timeline is. But, we just got, and I don't think there's any harm in telling anybody publicly, we've got notification of intent to sue over the CEQA work. So, all of these things can have an impact on timely progress to getting to the point where this board may want to have a consideration of a resolution of necessity. So we'll know more once that application is in, once we find out what the lawsuit cause of action is, et cetera, et cetera. Dave.
Yeah. If I may, we also need to be very, very careful as to the content of that messaging program, because we have to keep in mind that this board has an adjudicatory decision to be made. And as such, due process rules apply. And if the district is taking an advocacy role, bias rules could apply that could actually disqualify some decision makers and call into question the entirety of the process. So we do have to be very, very careful as to content. As long as we're on process, we're on fair game.
Yeah.
If we're going to go into substance, then we have to be fair and describe all sides that are the issues that are before. And if we if we flub that effort, that's where problems can arise. So we do have to, I'm not suggesting at all that we not have a public information program, but we have to be very, very careful in thinking about what the content will be.
Good advice.
Thank you for that.
I agree with George on what needs to be put out, and Mr. Laredo. We need to come up with something that where we've been and where we're going. That well, we told them today that we possibly could be sued over CEQA, so that our EIR, so that could take some time. We need to alert the public on how long this process is going to take, because they're looking for something. So
Yeah.
if we can come up with those items on the process, I appreciate it. Furthermore, on meeting, a platform for meetings, we have discussed that before. Now it's time for the GM and staff to make that decision. There will be a change, so they got to get used to it. We can keep this, but it's going to be some change to help the public a little bit better. We had that discussion before. Now I got other board members having that discussion. So we need to work on that. There's something going to happen. That's all I got, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other member of the committee wishing to make comments on this at this point? I like the idea, though, of all, of each of the things that come up. The timeline will be a moving target. I acknowledge that, but it really is going to be helpful for us to be able to see sort of like a flow of, if this happens, then that, and so that we really do have a good idea and can inform the public of what our anticipated time frame is. Taking it out to the public, I saw Mr. Tilley had his hand up at one point, but I do not see it up any longer. Is there any member of the public that wishes to comment on this item or any other item before we close the meeting out? Melody Chrislock, I see, has raised her hand. Melody, would you like to make your comments?
Yeah, I just wonder if you might consider, I don't know if maybe you already do this, but on NPR, you can actually become a sponsor, and CalAm does this and often has a lot of messages. I mean, NPR is probably the most listened to station for your demographic. So you might consider that. And get your own, you get a certain amount of advertising for that, being a sponsor.
Thank you for that.
Sure.
My radio nonprofit heart thanks you for that as well. Any other member of the public wishing to make comment?
All right.
Okay, well, thank you all. And with that, I think we are ready to adjourn. I wish everyone a very safe and healthy and happy Thanksgiving.
Same to you.
Thank you very much. I look forward to seeing the rest of our group together soon. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting. So thank you so much for this.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.